Hello, everyone. This is Anupinder from Superwits Academy, and welcome you all for another live session. Today, I'm going to take question answers from the audience. In fact, I've already shared a link in my post on the Facebook as well as on YouTube that you can submit your questions over that particular link. So, in case you have submit, well and good. If you have not done till now, so what I can do is I can share the link here itself, and you can share your queries. In the meantime, I take other submitted queries on the particular form. So here is the form. Just give me a sec. In the meantime, I just add on that particular link for you on the screen. Just let me know that if my audio and video is clear. Okay, so this is a link which is being displayed on the screen. You can submit your doubts over here in case if you have not done till yet. Uh, Anyways, I hope everyone is doing well because we have been going through a lot of tough time socially, physically, and mentally as well. So hope everyone is doing fine. So let me start our session with a very basic you know guideline. Like whenever you are going to submit your query over this particular, if you have already done, that's okay. If you have not done, if you are doing it right now, you can submit your query on this particular link and be very specific with your query so that we can we can discuss about that quickly. If there is any kind of small code reference required to be done, I'll do that for you right away, right? So be specific with your queries that okay, what sort of thing you are looking for. And second thing is like because we have a YouTube channel, so you can subscribe to my YouTube channel right now if you're watching it through YouTube. If you are on Facebook live, you can subscribe to my particular group which we have created. Actually, I didn't create it. It's basically I'm trying to create a community support corresponding to that for the development of the Cloudsim simulation toolkit related scenarios. So if you have not subscribed to that particular Facebook group page, you can go to that particular page, and the link to that particular page is this. That is facebook.com/groups/Cloudsim simulation toolkit. Right. So that is a place where we do some discussions as a community, and we work out on we are still working out on making it more streamlined in terms of having the collaborative collaboration environment, but still yes, we are building up a community over there, right? So I'm just showing you the query link now. So let me start with the one very specific question. I have been through a lot of interactions, and there is one common question which I've been asked by a lot of users, that most of my videos or most of my course content which is on supervisacademy.online, it is based on the basic Cloudsim 3.0.3. So I'm taking this as a first question for this particular session. So why my most of the content is based on 3.0.3? So the very first reasoning for this is this is the first stable version which the Cloudburst team has released with a lot of implementations around the basic simulation engine what they have created based on the discrete event management. Second is the policies which have been implemented with respect to the VM allocation policy, and specifically if I talk about the scheduling policies, so they have been very refined implementation, and the way they have implemented it is pretty easy to understand, and the structure of the project is also easy to understand for the beginner level. So my purpose for doing all these content creation around this particular tool is to bring in the awareness in the community that this tool is quite simple in terms of implementation. And the only thing in the back of mind of the people is the thing that this is something which has been written in Java, right? And you have to do the coding part. But mind it, 3.0.3 has a very simplified way to implement your work. They have pinpointedly given you certain functions in which you can go and write your algorithms. You can change some part of the algorithm, and then you can produce the results on the console. So that's the basic reason why I have been promoting 3.0.3. And other reasoning is because this is a base table version, all the other versions and the extensions which have been created are using this particular project into their further extension work, right? So if you talk about Cloudsim 4.0, basically that contains a container based implementation, right? So within that particular part, the underlying engine is drawn from 3.0.3, right? So if you know about 3.0.3, you are very well equipped to quickly move to the version 4.0, and same also happens with the 5.0 too, right? So if you know the base, right, and if you know that which classes are extending into the extensions that have been generated out of this 3.0.3 version, right, it's not like 4.0 or 5.0. It's the other extension, that is iFoxM Cloud Analyst, which is actually a parallel development with of the Cloudsim. That is Cloud Analyst, Cloud Reports. So there have been a lot of projects which are being derived out of this particular stable branch, which is actually the code is available on the GitHub, and the complete branch of the project development phases are already available on their page, right? So you can actually backtrack to the very first release they have done for this particular tool. So 3.0.3 is the base, and if you are trying to build up your research career within this particular cloud computing domain, and you are interested in using Cloudsim as a simulation tool, and you are planning to sustain this particular research field for, let's say, next 5-8 years, so still this tool is very good because it allows you to have very good extensibility, right? I can simply go and write a new class based on the VM allocation policy abstract class, right? So I can extend it and I can write my own set of code. Same I can do it with the network data center, simple data center. Same I can do it with the host, which is actually derived to power host, and maybe I can take it as a network host too. So the extensibility is quite flexible, right? So that's the very 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 important aspect, aspect, and the reason why I'm using 3.0.3 as a base simulation toolkit release of this particular Cloudsim project for the demonstration purpose, for the discussion purpose, and this is how the things are going to get into the streamline part, right? So when we are moving toward the extension uh, of this particular tool, right? So that is the very first thing I wanted to discuss, right? Because it's a very common thing, right? Second thing is, a lot of people these days are finding an error which is happening because of the module info .java class introduction in the Eclipse IDE, right? So for that, I've already did a live in last week. You can go through that particular video. The title of the video is Cloudsim tutorial, troubleshooting the Cloudsim installation errors, right? So you can actually go through that particular video, and you can understand that why that error is occurring and how you can actually go and troubleshoot it, right? So that's the two major point I wanted to discuss. Hides and columns so that we can have our queries with us. Okay, so the very first question which I'm going to take is this. So side by side, I'll be quoting the questions on the screen, right? So this is the very first question we got. That how can I store and download any file in Cloudsim database, and is there any type of cloud database exist in Cloudsim? I want to store multiple files on the cloud database in Cloudsim. How can I do so? Right. So let me take you to the screen and let me give you the brief idea about that. What exactly is the hierarchy for the classes. So let me take you to source folder. Right. I hope you can see my screen. In case if you find any during the session, if you find any kind of issues with my voice or video, just let me know in the comments. Right. So there are basically, if you go into this org.cloudbus.cloudsim, you can find there are file class. There is a file attribute, hard drive, storage. These are the three classes which are there, right? So anyone who is trying to consider a database related thing, right? So because this is a simulator, you cannot have a actual real entity or real database system into this particular tool. So what you are going to do is you are going to do the extension of the file class, right? So if you go inside a file class, you can actually see what exactly this particular file class contains. So it says there is an attribute, there is a name, there is a transaction time which is supposed to be occurred, right? And there are some of the basic markers for maintaining its status, right? And if you go inside the file attribute, you can see what's the name, who's the owner, what's the type of the particular file that you're maintaining, what's the checksum, and all that stuff. So in case if you want to have an extension for any of these attributes, you can just simply add the variables over here, right? So these two classes are going to get associated with the hard drive storage, right? So there you're going to have your file list. Okay. So in case if you're trying to simulate the database systems, right, and you wanted to have a collection of files as to be stored in that particular database system. So whatever the type of scenario you wanted to implement with respect to the file management, these are the three files which you should be looking into correspondingly for your work implementation, right? So either you can change these files itself, or you can extend the particular set of files, and then you can use them into the particular system, right? So how do I know where these classes are being used? So if I go and right click on this particular hard drive storage, I can just simply go to type hierarchy. This is the basic hierarchy we have. So hard drive storage is actually being extended into the SAN storage. So in case if you are looking for implementing the SAN storage related management, that you can also do corresponding to that particular part, and where this particular call hierarchy is going to be, right? So right click on the class and open call hierarchy. So you will get to know that where these particular calls have been put into, right? So the SAN storage is not being used. Similarly, if we go and look into the call hierarchy for this, so we can see where the particular call hierarchy is being happening. So this is how you can actually go and look into the overall system to check where the particular calls are being happening, right? So the next question which I'm going to take is uh, this is the same. I'm currently working on the cloud solution as to. Okay, so this is the same. So this is the query from the same person. So I'm just going to add it to the bar. Okay, so here we go. All right, so I'm currently working on the same lines they have used. I'm currently working on Cloudsim Simulator. How can I store and download any file in Cloudsim database? Is there any kind of cloud database in the Cloudsim Simulator? So I've already explained about it. So there is a second part to this particular part. I want to split a single file into multiple files, and then I want to store them on the cloud database, and then I want to get back all the files. How can I do that? So The simple explanation is the same thing, that whenever you are going to use this hard drive where the cloud database is supposed to be stored, you are going to have a collection of your files, right? So whatever the multiple files, split files you wanted to store, you can actually store them into this file list, and then you can manipulate them whenever and wherever you wanted to have, right? So that brings the answer to that particular question. So next question comes is, what does the function setVmTable uh, setVmTable do? Where can I find that particular code, right? So that's, let me just copy and paste the question so that you all can read this. And here we have. So what does the function setVmTable do, right? So that's the very first thing. So let me show you how you can actually go and search. I'm just doing a control H and set VM table, right? So if you're not aware, you can actually go and do the search. Just one sec. So let me close all files. Just clicking on this set VM table. Okay, so I'm not able to search. Anyways, this is. I hope I have not set the exact field. Search for the type, all occurrences, Java search, set VM. Set VM table. I hope I should get the results here. All occurrences. I'm not looking for case sensitive. Okay, I should get it. No. Anyways, so I know where exactly it is. I don't know why it is not finding it out. So let me take you to this particular class, that is VM allocation policy simple. Sometimes these embarrassing moments happen on the live, but anyways, so this VM allocation policy simple class contains a VM table, right? So this is basically a map, right? It's a hash map, we can say. I would not say hash map. It's a map which is binding the host with the particular ID of the VM, right? So this VM table, if we actually go and look into the function list, so we have this particular set VM table at this particular place, right? So this is a protected method which is going to set that private variable of this particular class, that is VM table variable, and there is a corresponding function, and that function is basically a get VM table. So that set is for setting the values and get is for reading the values, right? So set is writing, get is reading. So these are the property functions we create in a Java projects, and in fact all object oriented projects. So here what it gets us, the same thing, that VM table, right? So this is basically fetching the reference to that particular instance. So if I go to the open declaration, you can see we are coming to this particular variable. So the reference we are going to get from get VM table is this, right? So there are some confusions happening within the code, because the code has been written by multiple people, uh, and they have their own ways to write, own style to write the code, right? So for this VM table, because the question was, where can I find the code for it so that I can change the VM table setting. So why I showed you this get VM table. So if I right click on it and open call hierarchy, you can actually see it has been called at multiple locations. Okay, so one is in the get VM get one place is allocate host for VM. So that means where you are going to map your virtual machine to the host, right? That is where this particular get VM table is going to be called. And one is the place where the deallocation of the host is going to happen from the VM, right? So let me open one of this particular table for you. So you can actually look into this particular code. What exactly it does is, for fulfilling that VM table, or populating that VM table, is actually going to call this particular function. This function is going to get us the reference of VM table instance, and then you're going to put the ID of the virtual machine and the host, right? So this is what the mapping table is happening when you are trying to do the VM allocations to the particular host. So if you understand this particular method call, right, so it's through that where I can access the code for making that addition to the list, where I'm going to put a mapping between the VM and host. So this is the place where the mapping of your virtual machine and the host has been happening, right? And the corresponding PES numbers are being given, and all that other calculations are being done, right? And then finally, the printing uh, of the message has been put that okay, the allocation has been successfully completed. So this is the place where you are actually going to manipulate the core VM table variable, which is a map variable, right? So that answers the other question. Then there is another question which is, I want to simulate. Just let me put this question again. All right. So I'm just copy pasting as it is. So please don't mind if there is any kind of typos. So the question says, I want to simulate one server VM instance in cloud and thousand clients or maybe users distributed geographically. Clients communicate among themselves and also with server, right? So we are looking at a topology which is going to have multiple nodes connected. So I'm treating clients as a node, right? Clients are assigned tasks, so definitely these can be said as nodes. And also server has tasks such as sending a file to clients also have tasks such as sharing a file across themselves. Okay, so here what is the very first thing that you should look into is that what particular simulator are you going to work on, right? So because we wanted to have a distributed network, right? So the best tool to implement this particular scenario is iFogSim, right? So it allows you to have this similar kind of topology where you have cloud at the top, and then you have distributed nodes. They can be distributed across the geographical region, where you can actually specify the geographical region by specifying the time zone, right? So it's the simplest thing that you can do. So if I show you any of the example, and if I take you to the create data center, here when you are setting up the data center characteristics, it is actually asking you for the time zone, right? So whatever the time zone you define, that actually defines the geographical distribution, or geographical placement of that particular node, right? So this is very important to understand in terms of implementing. So same thing actually goes into the iFogSim as well, because that's an extension of this particular uh, Cloudsim 3.0.3 tool. So here, if you wanted to have that particular system to be put into place, iFogSim is the very first thing that you should choose, right? And then because each individual node is going to share the file as a task, so that means the tuple is going to take a particular object along with it. Okay, so that's very very important that you should keep in mind, that tuples are going to have an additional attribute which is going to have a particular file object into it, and that you can share across the topology. Now what's the next thing, right? Next thing is that how the scheduling happens. Okay, so scheduler or the placement policies are going to define that how that particular tuple can be moved between those particular set of nodes, because iFogSim contains application module which is actually responsible for execution of those tuples, right? Or tuples are basically tasks. So when we are looking into this particular scenario, so the particular placement policies for the module are going to define that okay, if that particular module is going to take that particular tuple for the execution, it will work. Otherwise it can be passed on to the cloud. So the policy for distributing it across the different nodes should be on the end of the cloud node, right? So that is how you can actually work it around. So this is something that you should keep in mind. What's the next question? Next question says, yes sir, when I try to do so, it's from scratch. Okay, this is the continuation to it. Not a continuation, it's a separate question. So let me just put it again on the screen for you so that you all can see it. All right, so save. Sure. Okay, so yes, when I try to do it from the scratch, the simulation example, right? So this, I think this is the reference to the video file, which is actually in my course hosted on superwitsacademy.online. So because there I've actually demonstrated this how you can implement any of the Cloudsim related scenario example scenario from scratch. So in my project, the auto suggestion does not appear, and also cloudsim.init throws an error, and import statement is not automatically. Okay, so there can be two problems. One is either the jar of the cloudsim is not included within your class path. Just look into that particular part. So how you can recognize that particular problem? Go to the project root, right click, properties, go to the build path, go to the libraries, and you should see that there are jars inside, jars included in your project. So if they are missing, then you should either click on the add jar if it is in the project itself, or otherwise click on the add external jar, right? So both these things can work. Other way is the same thing which I discussed in the start of the session, that you might have used the latest Eclipse ID, and that id have created the module info.java class, and that is creating a problem. So have if you have to troubleshoot that, so last week I did a live on this. You can search on Superwits Academy channel, and you can find for the troubleshoot the installation of Cloudsim errors, right? So that's the video which you can search for, and you can go through that particular video to resolve it if it is because of the module info. If it is because of the jar, then what I have just shown you, that you can work it around. So let me take another question. Any link where can I get the real-time dataset of the clouds for the cloud simulator? Also throw some light on how can we decide on number of VMs and cloudlets. So these are basically two questions. So first I take the very first one, that is the dataset question. So here we go. This is the question that has been asked. So any link, right? So basically what is the thing that we can have. Okay, so here, great. So we can go to Google data set search. So this is one of the search engine for data sets that you can go and search for. So let's say VM utilization I wanted to search for, right? So you can see there have been number of data set which are available. You can actually go to those specific links, and then you can explore all those data sets, right? So this is kind of search engine which is there for you. So you wanted to have any kind of specific format, so maybe tabular form we are looking at. So we can have a particular set of specific filters on this particular part, maybe usage right, maybe topics, maybe free or paid, whatever. So you can actually go and search on this. Apart from this, Amazon give you the similar kind of open data set thing. You can search on that. Kaggle has two three good data sets which you can get, right? So these are some of the portals from where you can actually go and check the data sets by yourself. Now, what's the second question? That throw some light on how can we decide on the number of VMs and cloudlets on for own dataset. Do we have option to it? So the number of data, because we are considering the what do you call the dataset implementation, right? So you should know that how these data sets are being included. So if you have extensively worked with this power section, this power module, you know this particular workload which is provided by the Planet Lab has been included for the benchmarking, right? So here the workload are being included in all the files which are working on the power based thing, and you can actually have your particular workload added, right? So what this workload is all about, so you should understand what is the format this workload is giving you. So this workload has a 1024 virtual machines information, and each virtual machine for the interval of 5 minutes, the utilization levels are being accumulated, right? So they have been recorded that okay, at let's say midnight 24% was the utilization, at 12 5:34, at 12:10 29, at 12:15 it was like 26% utilization. So all these things are being actually further included within the Planet Lab helper class or runner class. So let me take you to this. So just okay, so this is the helper class, and you can see a particular utilization Planet Lab in memory class is being called. So this is actually going to fetch the information from the file and then put them into the utilization part. So in case if you are trying to put your own data set, this is the place where you can actually go and look into it. For this, I have created a detailed video demonstration and explanation that in my course, that is essential Cloudsim tutorials. You can look into that particular file, and you can actually get an idea that how you can actually include your data sets within the Cloudsim part, right? And you can decide upon that, okay, what is the number I should be taking care of, right? So you can go to this particular section, that is org.cloudburst.cloudsim.examples.power. You can go to constant. You can actually see what is the time for the limitation, for the simulation limitations, what is the scheduling intervals, how many variants of virtual machines you are going to use, right? Regarding this, I have also given done a live in previous week, in previous month. You can actually look into all those set of uh, videos which I've created in last month, and you can get an idea that how these changes can be done to that particular part. So I hope that makes a particular difference in the understanding of the things, right? So here is one thing, like number of hosts you have asked for. So this is the place where the number of hosts can be changed. So it's 800 by default. You want to make it more, you can make it more, right? So that's the basic difference what you can have in the terms of implementing your own data set with your own basic changes that you do to the system. Then comes is another question, implementation of security algorithm in iFog sim. Now, this is one of the question which I get a lot of time. People are confused that can we do this in Cloudsim or its extension? Uh, One thing that you should understand about Cloudsim is that Cloudsim is uh, basically a simulator for infrastructure, right? It's not at all supporting the application layer of frameworks. There have been few implementation that are being done in 5.0, which is Cloudsim 5.0, which is still in a beta release, right? And Cloudsim Plus is another simulator which is there in the community, and you can actually go and explore in that. I have not explored it in very much detail, but it has the similar properties. It actually changed some parts of the particular Cloudsim 3.0.3 version, and they have made some better software. They have made implementation of some better software engineering techniques and latest syntaxes of the Java. It might look somewhat confusing, but it's quite easy as the 3.0.3 version is, and it's still under development. And a good community support is also there for that particular project. So you can actually go and explore in that as well. So the point comes is that can we implement the security related simulations? Yes, we can, but there is a lot of work you have to do on your own. So that's the one very specific thing you should keep in mind, that you have to create a lot of new classes, you have to develop a lot of new behavior into the simulation, and then you can actually work it around. Next question is, if Cloudsim classes are flexible enough for scheduling and scaling of the cloud resources. Yes, definitely they are quite flexible. That how flexible they are, I can just show you right now. So let's say I wanted to have this particular scheduling to be created, right? So my own scheduling is supposed to be created. So I can just simply go to files, new class, and within the class, let's say test scheduler, right? And this test scheduler will have a superclass, and that superclass should be uh, cloud scheduler. Okay, so I can click on browse cloud scheduler, maybe cloudlet scheduler. I'm sorry, this should be cloudlet scheduler. So I can include this particular class, right? And generate comments, include all the constructors from the superclass and all that stuff which I require. So once I have this particular class, you can see all those primary methods which are supposed to be implemented from the context point from the point of view of implementing these very specific line of behavior line of codes to produce a specific behavior. You can actually go and write in all those functions, right? So primarily uh, update VM processing, cloudlet submit, these are the two methods, or in fact the states, all the states which are there for the cloudlet. You can implement those particular set of behavior in these particular empty functions, and you're good to go. You can just simply then refer to this particular class. Okay, this is test scheduler, so it should be somewhere around here. Press T. Yeah, so this is test scheduler, right? Mm, Anyways, so here it is. So I can simply use this particular class and replace the cloudlet scheduler space shared or time shared in any of the examples. So maybe I can go at this particular place. I can go to this Cloudsim example one, and within the virtual machine, I can just simply replace test scheduler, and the things will go right away for in a way as I want it to happen, right? So this is how you can actually do your work. So can the second part of the question is, can you cover an example scenario how to achieve that with the custom workload for scaling? So this is how I've actually done. And apart from this, you can actually go and find a random workload generation video on my YouTube, and then you can actually follow that particular video to work out on your own example set, right? So that's the explanation for this particular question. The next question is how to add a new load balancing algorithm in addition to three existing algorithms in Cloud Analyst. So the way I have just demonstrated you that how I created the test scheduler class, you can actually do that, right? And that's the only way how we work. What are the data set? Next question is, what are the data set we can use for Cloudsim simulation of load balancing algorithm? So one is the Planet Lab. Definitely you can use. The rest of the you can search from the portal, which I have actually given you just a couple of minutes before. Next question is, as I'm working on mapping of VM to host for VM placement through k-mean clustering algorithm. Okay, so I'm not sure that in which package do I have to work it around. So it's a VM to host mapping. So any of the VM to host mapping is actually going through these classes, that is VM allocation policy. By default, the VM allocation policy simple is being implemented, right? You can actually go and change this particular thing, and specifically the function which you should be working around is the allocate host for VM, right? That you can actually change, and things will work for you. Next question is, next person has given 3-4 questions together. So let me check if I can take one by one. So one is how to implement security aspect in Cloudsim for secured information exchange in cloud. So it's the same question which I've just taken a couple of minutes before. So security implementation we can do but a lot of behavior classes, a lot of extension classes and new classes you have to put into the Cloudsim, or maybe its extension uh, for the simulation of your security related workloads, right? So that's very important thing that you should understand. There have been couple of projects which are there on the GitHub. They are not from the official project page, but if it serves the purpose for you, you can actually go and look into them as well. I just got reminded of this thing. So second is how to evaluate service access policies for improving transparency and trust. So this is again related to security. So you have to build up all these classes by yourself. How to enforce ownership and control over data. So this is one of the very difficult tasks which you can do in Cloudsim, but again you have to do all the model working from the scratch, right? So you cannot make it work. And the version of the Cloudsim which you should be using for this particular thing, that how to enforce and ownership and the control over the data, because version 5.0 has an implementation of the simulation regarding the web applications, right? So you can actually do this thing in that version, so which is still in the still in the pre-release phase. So you can go and test it out. I hope it should work for you, and let me know if it works. We can have some more in discussion around this. What's the next? How to use VM migration technique by considering multi-objective optimization. So VM migration techniques are basically dependent on two very important things. One is the host selection while the migration is happening, and one is the VM selection. When the host is selected, then you have to no, select the VM for the migration. So these are the set of classes that you should be looking into for this particular task, right? And the migration is based on certain criterias, right? So that those criterias are the one that are going to take care on the basis of that. Okay, let's say if I take an example of this particular minimum utilization class, right? So what it says, the power VM selection minimum utilization. So any particular virtual machine which is getting the minimum utilization from on a particular host, right? That VM will be selected for the migration part, right? So that will be moved to the VM to migrate list, and then it will go with the simulation flow. So these classes are the one where you should go and look into, and whatever the number of objectives you are going to have, you can implement them here in this particular function. The next question is how to give more priority to time sensitive request in master slave architecture. So this is something which can be done in iFoxim, because we are talking about master slave. For example, if three requests comes to a master node, out of them one is time sensitive, and then it should be scheduled to master node first rather than the other two. So one of the simplest explanation for this is you can go to source, and I'm considering that you're taking the task as a cloudlet, right? So cloudlet can contain one new attribute, right? And that attribute can be a priority, right? So previously I might have explained to someone. So priority attribute you can add, and expected, instead of let's say expected RAM, we can have another attribute that is private expected deadline, right? So your deadline, expected deadline with priority, can decide that which particular task is to be executed first, right? So once you receive it, where do you receive, you should also know about that. So within data center you can actually go to the submit. I think there is a process cloudlet. Yeah, so this is process cloudlet submit method. So whenever you're going to have the submission, right? So the way you submit your task, that is going to get the processing of your task in the first priority or second priority or third priority, right? So within this particular calls, you have to look at a particular place where you can actually go and implement your work, implement your logic for deciding on which task should be given priority in that particular part, right? And the same thing can also be implemented in this particular update cloudlet processing function. If you want to have it a very have it at a very specific part, because ultimately the cloudlets are going to be executed inside the virtual machine, right? So you have to actually go inside the virtual machine for VM processing. So I'm actually following the function calls, and you reach here, right? So your scheduler is actually going to get the VM processing, right? So which scheduler? The cloudlet scheduler is going to have the VM processing. So that cloudlet scheduler is actually going to get you all the other features, modifications that you wanted to have uh, in your simulation, through your algorithm, right? So this is the function which you should be calling, which should be working around, that is update VM processing from a cloudlet scheduler. And what cloudlet scheduler you have by default? These are the three cloudlet schedulers that you have: time shared, space shared, and dynamic workload, right? And here you have this update VM processing, that you might first study and then you change as per your requirement, right? So this is not very confusing, but the point comes is that you should know that where you should go and look into the code, and then what specific line of code you have to change, right? So this is very important aspect that you should understand about this particular simulator. So it has thousands of lines of code, but which line should be changed, that requires some study of this API, right? And that is where my course gives you a lot of help as well in understanding all this particular part. So anyways, next question, let's take the next question. How can I know through master node if the slave fork device is full? Okay, so this is the extension, for further question from the previous one. How can I know through master node if the slave fork device is full with all the requests, and send it to other slave nodes? Okay, so for this, I think I should. Okay, so right now I've project configured with the Cloudsim 3.0, so I have to close it. Anyway, so the question which has been asked is that how my node is going to get to know, the master node is going to get to know that all the slaves which are being managed by that master node, what is their capacity usage right now, right? So that should be the question. So if I have the request coming onto my fog devices, right? So one thing you should know is that this particular problem statement can only be implemented in iFoxip, right? So every individual fog device, whenever it receives a tuple, because we are talking about the request, and that request is being treated as tuple inside of the iFoxim. So whenever a new request or tuple arrives at a particular fog device, before actually taking it for the execution, it actually checks. The very first check it does is, can I do take this particular request for the further execution? If yes, only then it will proceed. If no, it will send it to the node above. Okay, so that's a by default with policy which is being implemented in iFoxim. So uh, just wanted you to know about it. Now, if you want to change that, then you should go inside the fog device, and then you should be looking into the function where the tuple arrival is being processed, right? So that is where you can actually change the behavior of this particular implementation of allocating the tasks, right? Next question is, please, I do not know how to start to choose which topic is important in cloud for study in PhD research. Oh, so this is a very broad question. I think for this, what you can have is, let's take this particular thing. So let me take you to the scholar.google.com. And here, let's say I wanted to have, like, it's a very general question, and it's like some of the common sense can be used in this. So let's say cloud computing, and let's say I wanted to work on task scheduling. So my priority as a researcher will always be that let's look at the latest trend, what is happening. So if I click since 2020, it shows me some results, right? 18,000 something, which is quite huge in terms of like I will not be able to pinpoint it. So what I do is cloud computing. I'm going to put them into the double quotes, and then if I take the task scheduling, I can actually go and see there have been reduced search results. Now, if I want to be very much specific into this, like this is the very first step which I generally use, right? So task scheduling, and let's say I'm looking at a machine learning. So that has been more precised since 2021. This is more precised. Let's say I wanted to have some implementation on uh, Cloudsim, right? So we are more precise now. Okay, so 146 now. Crawling through 146 records is an easier task, right? So you can actually do your further calculation into this. So I think that makes some sense for you. Next question is how to calculate migration rate in Cloudsim. So this is quite interesting question. So migration rate is like how many how see the migration rate can be calculated on the basis of how many migrations have happened throughout the simulation. So the throughout simulation is 24 hours displayed as what you call 24 hours time displayed as seconds. So let me run one for you. Let me go to the examples of the power. Let me click on MC, IQRMC. Let me run this. So what I did is the log will not be displayed, the console log. So the execution will be much faster in comparison to what it gives your default behavior, right? So right now, the interval is 300 scheduling interval. So that's the reason why this particular time has been displayed. So 300, 600, 900, and so on. Okay. And then this time goes on to 86,000 something. So it will take a few more seconds to finish. So in the meantime, this execution gets completed. I just request you to share some feedback in the comment section so that I should be able to uh, get some idea that on what aspect shall I be improving these kind of live sessions, right? So the 86,100 seconds is the time for which the simulation is working, and then we are shown with all these results, right? So you can actually look at the different number of migrations that happen. So number of virtual machine migrations which are being done, that is 23,035. You can divide it by the number of number of seconds that the simulation has run, right? And that will bring you the overall idea that how many migration what is the migration rate that happened on the time. Okay, and if it is corresponding to the number of hosts, then you can divide them into the number of shutdowns that are being happening, right? So it's a matrix that you should define on your own, and what parameter you're going to use as an objective function, it always depends on you. And the rest of the basic statistical model basic statistical information has already been displayed in this particular result, right? So you can use this as well, corresponding to the function or the formula that you wanted to create. Okay, so that is what is there. The next question is very specific. I am implementing PSO in Cloudsim, but I have issues on integrating it. So now your question is not clear. Are you putting it into the task scheduling, or are you putting it into the resource scheduling? So task scheduling talks about Cloudsim to Cloudlet to VM mapping, whereas resource scheduling looks at VM to host mapping, right? So you should be very clear about it. So in just to give you a broad idea, if you are working on task to VM scheduling, you should be looking inside the data center class. There is a submit cloudlets method. You can go and study that method, and you can change the behavior of that particular function or method as per your PSO requirement, right? So if it is for the VM to host mapping, then in that case VM allocation policy simple is the class where you should go and study about. Next comment is, how can I simulate forward computing resource allocation in Cloudsim? So this is a tricky thing that I always suggest that you should not do, right? Because a lot of rework is required to be done for this particular part. So I suggest, if you are good to go with the iFoxim, you should do it in that. If you wanted to have fog computing related implementation into the Cloudsim, you have to create a lot of new classes, and you have to generate the behavior corresponding to the fog devices and all that stuff. So this is quite difficult and tedious work to do. So my suggestion is, no go for this. You should not be doing this in the first place, right? So if you can avoid it, please avoid it. So next question I'm going to take from the Facebook group. So this is like, do you plan new content for iFog Sim? Yes, I have planned. I've already jotted down a plan. I've been into Zoom calls from various subscribers of my course, as well as overall community. So there is a plan for some more content, relevant content. It's not like only explaining the classes. It's a relevant content, like how the task can be scheduled, how the resource allocation can be done, what changes are needed to be done, which classes to be modified, what new classes can be created, and all that stuff. So I'm working on that particular part. It will take time because I've been involved into multiple activities. So I hope it should come soon, but I cannot commit the date right now. Next is how to integrate the objective function on the Cloudsim project. So for this particular part, you have to be very specific what objective function you wanted to have. So let's say my objective for task scheduling is to reduce the overall make span. So if I'm reducing the overall make span, I will be taking the right. I'm going to consider the load balancing, uh, and that load balancing is going to happen in terms of that what kind of algorithm I'm going to use into that, right? Apart from this, there have been couple of other measurements that you are going to do, that what time the particular task has spent into the waiting, when it got started, does it got interrupted or not. So it's up to you that what type of parameters you are going to consider, and then you finally get to have the overall objective function to be displayed in the console, right? So every individual information, if I give you an idea on the example, every individual information of the simulation with respect to the cloudlets are going to get into this particular print cloudlet list, where the list of the cloudlets are being passed from the main method, right? So this is the main method where this particular print method is going to call. So this new list is going to get the received list of the cloudlets. That means all the cloudlets which are being executed and their execution has been over. So that has been passed on to it, and you can actually see that there have been multiple functions that are being already created for this particular cloudlet, right? So any objective function that you wanted to display, you can with respect to the task scheduling, you can create or integrate in your cloudlet class, and then you can use that particular function call over here. Next question is, how do you calculate performance metrics like throughput, optimization time, and SLA violation for load balancing? Any general formula? So there have been a lot of different formulas from a lot of different researchers. I think I should not pinpoint it to the specific one. Uh, like uh, like if I show you the output from the previous one, so we already have this particular uh, result which is being calculated on statistical basis, right? So what is the mean time between the host shutdown, what is the standard deviation, and this is going to define you that overall what is the big picture for the optimization that you have done, right? So there have been couple of parameters that you should be using, and a lot of people have used different blend of these parameters, and then they have created their own formula for defining the overall optimization of the system. So it's always specific to the problem, right? So you cannot make it hard coded hard coded suggestion to any of these specific set of a set of problem statements, right? So that's it for the. I think there are no more questions in the Facebook group. Let me take the comments now. So let's start with the infotainment Sumit. So he has asked which class is mainly responsible for doing scheduling algorithm in the iFog sim simulator. So it's a tuple scheduler, right? So you can note it down. Tuple scheduler is the class that is there for the scheduling part, right? Then Jyoti is asking this, how to implement art colony optimization for task scheduling using Planet Lab dataset in large heterogeneous cloud within Cloudsim. Okay, so there have been couple of uh, things into this particular question. First is ant colony algorithm is supposed to be implemented for task scheduling, right? So one of the challenge with the Planet Lab is there the mapping, the basic mapping is being done for one to one, right? So if I show you the helper class, uh, the create cloudlet, I think that is here. No, that is in create cloudlet. That is in, I think, the lab runner or helper. Okay, so this is in Planet Lab helper class. So if we go through this particular overall code, you can actually look at that. You can actually see that the particular cloudlet is being mapped to one single virtual machine, right? So whatever the number of cloudlets we have, that has been mapped to one single particular virtual machine, right? So one to one mapping is being done. So if you wanted to have that particular implementation, first you should devise a way out to have a multiple cloudlets allocated to that particular individual virtual machine. So that's a very first thing that you should be looking into. Second thing, you said that heterogeneous. So if you wanted to have a heterogeneous, even though I have explained very well in my last month's live, where I've explained about that how you can change the constants file as per your requirement. So this is basically right now the heterogeneous environment for your nodes, right? Server nodes. So there are two server configurations which are being defined, and they are being used vice versa, and they are being used corresponding to these models. So if you want to have more models, these models are actually in the source folder, and you can go to org.cloudburst.cloudsim and then these power models, right? So if you want to have more heterogeneity, you can add more to here, and you can add more variation to this particular code set, right? So this is how you can actually work it around for your particular scenario, right? So ant colony can work out for you, but first you have to solve these two problems, and then you can actually move toward the ant colony. Okay. Then there is another query: can I simulate for computing resource allocation in Cloudsim? Please show on the screen, right? Nityanand, I've already given answer to this, I think, in a couple of minutes back, that you can do it, but a lot of rework is required to be done. A lot of tedious work of implementing all that behavior in the Cloudsim is required to be done, which I do not suggest to go with, right? Uh, Please don't mind that. Then is the Rashmi, how to access your last live sessions. You can go to my YouTube channel, that is Superwits Academy, and then you can go into the videos, and then there you will be able to find out my old videos, right, which were there previously, right? In case if you want YouTube, and then so this is my default page. Let me put it for you. I've just posted in the comment. This is my default YouTube channel page, and you can actually go over there and or maybe I give you a shorter version in case if I can get it. Just 1 minute. So, Superwits, you, you. Okay, so what I did is I'm just creating a short link for you so that you can have it noted for yourself. So this is what is a short link that you can follow, right? And this is what is the short link that you can follow for your particular you know, exploration on the videos which I have published on my YouTube channel, right? So this is what I have. I think there is one more question. So the link for my YouTube channel is social.anubinda.com/superbits YouTube, right? So that you can follow. So another question which we have is how to implement intrusion detection system with machine learning and Cloudsim with dataset like NSLKDD. Okay, so FA, this I've already discussed in the start of this particular video as well as in the middle of the video. You can actually go through that as well if you have missed it. Otherwise, the intrusion detection system, if you wanted to implement, you can use version 5.0, which is still in pre-release. You can build up all your model classes in that. There is a lot of rework that is required to be done, and this is something which is very tedious work, right? So you can build up the things, but I'm not sure in which way it will go because I personally didn't work into this particular part, right? But yes, you can extend it, but a lot of work is supposed to be done. Then infotainment Sumit is asking for, sir, kindly tell about the tuple scheduler class function method that is useful for scheduling. Sumit, I think you have to explore first, then maybe we can discuss it again. Tuple scheduler is basically a class, and that contains, I think, one or two function implementation. So you can go and study about that, and that should work for you, right? And generally it works it work in the conjunction of your fog device, and you can find the process tuple arrival and the relevant methods corresponding to it, right? There's another question that is from the greeter, sir. What are the data center selection policies available in the Cloudsim? So, if you are talking about selecting the data center on the basis of geographical level, by default, there is no policy in 3.0.3. I'm not sure about what is there in 5.0, but there is no specific policy. So you have to define it by yourself. Where you can do it, I can just tell you. You can go to the. I think that is here in the. Yeah, so in the data center broker class, what exactly it does is it actually sends a process event method, and through the process event method, it sends a request to the data centers that tell me what are your characteristics, right? So that particular event has been reverted with the resource characteristics, and you can actually go and look into this particular method, that is process resource characteristics, and here is the information that you get corresponding to the data centers, right? So at this particular place, if you wanted to implement some kind of logic, you can do it. Rest of the I'm not sure what policies you wanted to implement, and you can just explore this particular function by making some changes to it, right? Because you have access to all the characteristics of all the data centers which are being available, and if you are not sure that how you are going to work with the multiple data centers, so I think there is this example 5 can be a good start where multiple data centers are being initiated, and then they are being given the different broker to work around with, right? So you can explore this particular example. Okay, so this is the end of the questions which we have for today's live session. So we have done it, I think, almost for how much time? I think it is more than an hour. Great. So any questions you have right now? I'll be here for next 2 3 minutes. Otherwise, thank you very much for all the people who are present till the end. And I hope this session must have given you some more insights on the Cloudsim ecosystem and how the developer community is working around it. There have been some development breaks within this particular project, but yet this is one tool which gives you great extensibility in work of implementing the things around your problem statement things. uh, and that is what I have, and I suggest you to join this particular Facebook group that is on facebook.com/groups/cloudsim simulation toolkit. Most of my lives are going to be here in the future, right? So I'll be keeping my lives to this group, so that because this is a very small community, right? So not a lot of people are working into this particular tool, right? So let's start building up the community over there so that we can later on spread it out in our own local region, because this is the tool which has huge potential but people are not aware about it. And uh, a lot of content is not available. The blog that I have published on cloudsimtutorials.online, they have been only read by around 1,000 people in a month, right? 1,000 or 1,500 people in the month. So that clearly indicates that we have a very limited community out there. So if we are limited, so let's glue this community together so that we can have some more breakthroughs in our research projects. I want this community to have some collaborative efforts so that they can work together to bring in more innovative ideas in the research, because a lot of people I've seen are either working on scheduling, working on the resource allocation. A lot of problem statements are being repeated with different let's say somebody did it with one let's say a heuristic method, then they move to b heuristic method, then they move to c heuristic method by using the same pattern of heterogeneous or homogeneous resources and the mapping and all that stuff. So I think this is something which is a kind of going towards the dead end, right? So a lot of people are not looking at more innovative sections, like one of the question was about the files, right? That how we can work it around with the cloud database simulation and all that stuff. So that's the one thing. A lot of a very few people work on the network related thing, right? So the network data centers are not being utilized very well, right? So the network related simulations and the distribution related simulations are not being done. So there are a lot of still there are a lot of big scopes in this particular research area, because machine learning has been now introduced lately into a lot of different kind of papers. I've just shown you one sample on the scholars, that how you can actually go and search about it. But see, the point is that we need to explore new territories, right? So very few people work in the IoT based environment, and they're not extending the things, right? So that is where my vision is with the community. So we, as an individual also, we can actually bring open up new branches from this particular project, and whatever the work we do, we should be publishing it on the GitHub, so that other people, once they read our research work, our research paper, they should be able to extend it by using that simple code, right? Because at the end of the day, they also have to publish it for the credibility purpose, right? So that is what should be the perspective that you should be looking into if you are currently working in this particular research space. So this is what I wanted to speak about. And if I tell you with my experience, if you are starting from the very bottom level for this particular tool, you have to have some patience. This tool is going to take at least if you follow my courses, at least in that case it will take 20 to 25 days. Otherwise, if you are doing it on your own, it will take you around 2 to 3 months to actually figure out that how this particular tool is working, and how the overall prospect of simulating the cloud related scenarios that you are trying to work around through your hypothesis part. So the point is that you have to have some patience with this particular tool, and once you sustain that particular patience, uh, I assure you that you are going to do wonders with this particular tool, right? So I've been working in this particular tool. I've been guiding people from last 5 6 years, right? You can go through my blog on Cloudsim tutorials.online. You can read about that how this particular tool is being is being put together with different components, what their behavior are, right? So it's a free content. You can actually go and read about it, right? So the point is that read, come back to the code, study it. Once you start, go back, read, go back, look at the course, go back, look at the YouTube videos, and then again come back to the code and try to do some small changes and see what behavior it is been producing. So all that stuff will bring you more clarity of the system. And once you are through with the 2 months research of this particular tool, by making some small changes, you might end up working around with your with the results of the hypothesis that you are considering, right? So that is what is the beauty of this particular tool. So while you study it, you are actually going to have your results with you, and you are good to go with writing your paper. So that's what my viewpoint is, right? So okay, so Pushkal is here. He's asking for priority scheduling in iFoxim. Any useful references available? So Pushkar, the priority what the priority explanation which I did with the cloudlet, the same can be done in the tuple class. So you can go through that particular video, and you can you can through with the implementation of work. So that's the best reference which you can take, right? So all right, we have already crossed 1 hour. I think it's around 1 hour 15 minutes. So it's a long time, and I really enjoyed today for answering questions. So this is the one format which I think should work for us for every Saturday live. So this is the time I'm considering to go live for the Q&A session. Let me know in the feedback, or maybe you can also send me an email stating your feedback about what we have discussed over here today. If you have any kind of query, any kind of suggestion for these kind of session, I'm open for that. This is my email address, that is hello@superwits.com. You can reach out to me on this particular email address, and we can uh, improve this particular thing with every iteration, right? So I'm planning to have at least two Q&A sessions, so that we should be able to devise a way to interact as a community, because once we start interacting, we will be able to build up a better ecosystem around this particular tool. And there is no benefit, monetary benefit for me, right? So I'm giving it as a disclaimer here, because I'm purely advocating this particular tool for the community, because I know what is the potential of this particular tool. Okay, Pushkal is getting another thing, sir, where tuple scheduler class gets a call. Okay, so this tuple scheduler class is going to get a call once your fog device is going to send a call for the execution of the tuples, right? So that is where it is going to have. I didn't find the call of the tuple scheduler class anywhere in the ifog sim. So by default, there are two different branches that are being in there. Pushkal, I'm not sure which branch you are working on right now. So tuple scheduler you can use by default because if you look at the tuple scheduler is actually coming from the cloudlet scheduler, right? So by default, the basic cloudlet scheduler, time shared scheduler is being used, right? So that is what is there. So if you wanted to change the call, you can do that particular thing, right? So that is what we can do with that particular part. All right, then. I think we can call off the session. I have one more call to attend at 5:30. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. Hope you find this session more helpful for implementing your work. And do check my articles, which are available on cloudsimtutorials.online. And one suggestion, like if you are stuck at any place while studying this particular uh, cloudsim tool or its extension, just go back to the basic paper, right? So cloudsim has its own paper published, right? So every individual extension has a particular paper published, so you can go and read in that particular paper. I can assure you that every time you read that particular paper, every reread is going to get you some more insights. Even today, when I'm stuck on something, I just go back to the basic cloudsim paper, and which has been published in 2010 by Dr. Rajkumar Bhaiya and his team. I read that particular paper, and I get and every time I read it, whatever the problem I might be facing, I just get an idea from that, and then the things are through. So that these papers are really good, especially iFoxim's paper from Harshit, and the CloudSim paper from Rajkumar Bia and its team. So it's both these papers are really 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 good. You should go and read about them. And in fact, for STN also, CloudSim STN, there is the paper has been published, so you can go and read about all those, right? So these are the free course, free open source content which is there. And I've just did a summarization of a couple of these concepts on the cloudsim tutorials online. So that is what I have as a suggestion to you. So thank you very much for joining in, and see you in next live. I'll be floating the same link uh, again for next live. Will it be next Saturday? That I'll let you know on the Facebook group. So I suggest you to be on there, and let's join the community and make this particular community flourish in our local areas as well. So thank you. Bye bye, and have a great day. Be safe at your homes. Right. Bye bye.